Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. And thank you all for being here today for our fundraising fireside presentation. We will get started as usual. We'll get started in about 4 or so minutes. So 11:04 Eastern time, just to give folks, probably 11:03 actually, just to give folks some time to get into the room. Feel free to turn on your cameras. Love to see greetings. Feel free to put into the chat where you're tuning in from, whether that be an institution or organization, your city. We'd love to see where everyone is tuning in from, as well as what your personal swim lane is or your personal focus is within philanthropy. So that whether that be, major gifts or alumni relations, plan giving, stewardship, prospecting, we'd love to hear where you're tuning in from, as well as what your hyper focus is or what your interests are within the philanthropy space. Good to see you. We've got Huntsville in the room. Good to see you. And thank you for tuning in. Houston Tillotson, Austin Gregory, thank you for being here. Great to see our Houston Tillotson folks on the call. And welcome everyone for this Thursday. I hope it is warm wherever you are. I'm based in the DC area, so it's rainy and pretty cold today. So I hope there's warm weather wherever you are and you're able to soak in all that good spring weather. Thank you for being here. June, good to see you again, representing for Lemoyne. Happy end of the semester. Yes, right. We made it. Sonia says it's hot in Texas. Oh, bring some of that weather this direction because it's about 50 degrees in the DMV right now, which is unusual for us, but we get our ebbs and flows in the springtime. So, and I'm sure Dr. Gales, I'm sure you're feeling the same weather if you're in Fort Washington. So I hope you're staying dry today. And thank you all for being here. As I mentioned, we'll probably get started just to give folks time to settle in and sit down, get into a comfortable space for today's conversation and presentation. So we'll get started in about 1 minute or so. Thank you all for being on time. Really appreciate your time today and appreciate you for being here. I know it's a tricky time of year for folks that work in higher education with the semester. We have graduation and commencement season. We've got the start of spring classes in a couple of, or not spring classes, but summer classes in a couple of weeks. So we really appreciate you, committing your time to today's presentation and for the hour. Thelma's in Denmark, so I'm imagining you're at Voorhees if you're in Denmark, South Carolina, Thelma. So hopefully I see it's hot. So you bring that weather up north. All right, so we are going to get started today. So again, I appreciate you all. As I mentioned, my name is Geneva Dampere. I serve as the Director of Strategy and Operations within UNCF Teaching and Learning Center. And within the Teaching and Learning Center is our UNCF Philanthropy Institute. And I will talk a bit more about what the UNCF PI workstream does. But for today, I just wanted to appreciate and recognize you all for being here and for being a part of our final fundraising fireside session of the semester. So the Fundraising Fireside series within the UNCF Philanthropy Institute provides professional development for fundraising professionals at HBCUs, nonprofits, and organizations that serve Black and BIPOC communities through a virtual space for learning, collaboration, and knowledge sharing. So we hope that you get some good nuggets today and that you're able to see some value in the conversation that we're going to have today. So we are joined by Dr. Derek C. Henson, who will be presenting on From Graduates to Alumni, Cultivating Institutional Relations that produce active alumni at HBCUs. And Dr. Henson will be exploring how fostering altruism and engagement during the student experience can build stronger, lifelong alumni relations and support long-term donor engagement. So next slide, please. So we have just a couple of housekeeping guidelines or rules just to make sure that we're all level setting and we know what to expect from today's conversation. So please be aware that we are recording the session. The goal for that is to make sure that we are able to capture today's wonderful presentation and share it all or share it out with you all. So you'll be getting an email next week with the recording of today's session, and then that'll allow you to not only go back and review today's presentation, but also share it out with your colleagues within the fundraising space. So we not only record for your own personal value, but also for our colleagues that aren't able to be here or weren't able to attend. And if you do feel comfortable, and I've seen some of you already do so, please feel free to turn on your cameras. We like to create a community and make sure that folks know who's in the space with us and allow for a networking type of mechanism. So if you do feel comfortable, we do ask that you turn on your camera so that we can see the grid fill up a bit with your wonderful faces. If you aren't speaking, please mute your microphone so that we aren't getting any of that audio feedback while Dr. Henson is doing his presentation. If you do have any questions or you got some insights from any of the things that he's mentioned throughout the presentation, feel free to use the mechanisms on the bottom to raise your hand, or you could put it in the chat function on the side and I will elevate it up to Dr. Henson so that whether it be a question or an insight, he'll be able to hear what you all have to say and engage with you all today. We also love feedback. Within the Teaching and Learning Center, we do a cyclical type of engagement so that every time we do an iteration of this, we make sure that we are engaging with the feedback that you've given us. So please make sure that you stick around for our evaluation form. It's a very, very brief form, which will give us some perspective about what you'd like to learn more about, what type of presenters and speakers we should be bringing into the fundraising firesides, as well as what type of value you saw from today's conversation. And as I mentioned, my name is Geneva Daper. Oh, if you wouldn't mind going back so I can do a bit of your bio. Thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, my name is Geneva Dampier. I serve as the Director of Strategy Operations for the UNCF Teaching and Learning Center, and we are joined today by Dr. Derek C. Henson, who is the founder of the Henson Consortium. So Dr. Henson is a dedicated advocate for social justice with a career spanning nearly 25 years in education and nonprofit sectors. He is a graduate of Jackson State University with a BA in political science. He earned his MS in educational leadership from University of Memphis and holds a doctorate in urban higher education from Jackson State as well. He has served in various capacities, including program director at the Metropolitan Interfaith Association, director of externally funded programs at Southwestern Texas or Tennessee Community College, and most recently as the director of development at Lemoyne-Owen College, so one of our UNCF member institutions. So we appreciate him for his service there. In 2019, Dr. Henson founded the Henson Consortium, a consulting and professional development firm which provides strategic planning, grant writing, program evaluation and compliance monitoring, and fundraising. He actively participates in numerous professional and community organizations and has contributed to significant research and publications. And as you all will be able to see from today's conversation, his dedication to empowering marginalized communities and promoting educational excellence is evident throughout his impressive career. So we thank you, Dr. Henson, for being here, and we thank you for leading our conversation and our training today. Next slide.
Thank you.
So just to give a bit of background about the UNCF Philanthropy, so we were Philanthropy Institute, we were founded in 2023. So just a couple of years ago, we are a really relatively new startup within the UNCF organization. And our mission essentially is to provide resources, tools, and technique for fundraising professionals that support HBCUs and other mission-aligned organizations. So whether you be in the BIPOC space or in the social justice space, we try to create training and development in communities that serve you all. So we are really appreciative for you all taking the time today to really come in and learn and share some knowledge and insights and best practices as it relates to fundraising in your specific capacities and spaces. So our pillars for the work that we do are to increase the fundraising capacities within our HBCU member networks as well as HBCUs at large, to provide professional development opportunities such as the Fundraising Fireside, so this type of opportunity where individuals like yourself can convene, connect, and learn from one another. And then lastly, we also do a lot of strategic and intentional engagement with executive leadership so that we are creating cultures of philanthropy within our nonprofit spaces. So if you like what you've heard today, or if you want to, engage with us further, we'll have some details later on in the presentation for how you can connect with us and learn more about our program offerings, as well as how we can support the work that you're doing within your organization or institution. So with that, I will pass it to Dr. Henson for today's presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Geneva. A great introduction for me. Before I get started, I want to shout out two people because this research got its start from them, and that's Dr. June Chin Jointer at the Lamont College in Memphis, and my publicist or my editor for my actual book and the research is Dr. Gales. We all are graduates of Jackson State University. Well, in grad school, and Dr. Gales and I made a connection, and it's all about relationships. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And Dr. June was prior to me getting a doctorate, made a connection, and we became such brotherly, sisterly bond that we have. And they helped me with this particular research, and it's based on my dissertation at Jackson State when I was going through the doctoral program. So today's learning objectives, there are 5 learning objectives that we want to make sure we touch on. So from graduates to alumni, cultivating institutional relations that produce active alumni at HBCUs. So first, understanding the distinction between graduates and active alumni. There is a distinction. Participants will be able to explain the concept of nourishing their alma maters, identify key drivers of alumni giving, analyze disparities between alumni giving at HBCUs and PWIs, because, hey, we're doing the same work, just in different spaces. Implementing strategies to cultivate long-term alumni engagement, and utilizing prospect research to inform fundraising efforts. So, just a kind of a rhetorical question, are all graduates alumni? And simply by the definition of the word, yes. But when you look at it, let's look a little deeper to the meaning. So the root word of alumni comes from a Latin word, alere, which means to nourish. So I always ask the question about, for people that graduate from their respective alma maters, are you a graduate or, are you an alumni? There is a kind of distinction because the word means to nourish. And based on our alumni giving rates, we're not really, those of us that graduated from HBCUs, we're not really, nourishing our institution, because if you're going to nourish, that means you're going to be putting your money, your time, and your talent into that institution. So some things that don't kind of add up. One of the mantras that we always say about all HBCUs is that we are nurturing and a nourishing institution, and we care about our students. They're more than just a number, and we want to, pour into them and build these relationships. But when you look at it, those numbers are not always reflective of, us becoming active alumni. And we clearly want to say, when active alumni, those that are, a part of their alumni association, they're involved in some type of volunteerism for their institution. They're, doing more than just coming to homecoming and, particularly pouring back into their schools with their funds. So as we know, HBCUs produce the most graduates of most African Americans in the country. So we're seeing that this nourishing environment, that will comes from being altruistic to our institution would come naturally, but it hasn't seemed to, manifested that way. So what are the 5 factors that drive alumni giving? The first one is ultimate outcome. We build friendships. We go there for the intellectual capabilities, the intellectual development, the actual college experience. I mean, we all brag about our HBCUs, being, this and that. And those experiences, we carry those for a lifetime with those relationships that we have built while we're at our respective institutions. And then staying close with undergraduate friends. So, and the final thing is developing deep friendships during our undergraduate years. So it will beg to, the question is, are we really building on those relationships? Now, the younger generation, the Gen Zs or recent graduates, they have a social connection that we didn't have for some of us that are older, that we didn't necessarily build those relationships that carried on beyond our senior year or graduation from our respective institutions. But we now have so many mechanisms to keep in touch, of building relationships continuously beyond the college, graduation day. So when we're looking at, we're always touted the HBCUs or, we're the best. And we have certain sayings. If I say I love, everybody already knows that I attended what school. There's only one school that really promotes that. We say I love, but does I love translate into money? That doesn't necessarily always happen. We're rah rah rah. Let's go HBCUs. We're doing it. It's been a surge of that influence, but are we really promoting or nourishing the institution with our dollars? The research really shows that we're really not. So we have mouth service and we have T-shirt wearers, but we don't have the money to back it up. So when we're thinking about those social connections, building those into our alumni giving frameworks and building those institutions. So this is common knowledge. The average alumni giving rate is 10% for all HBCUs. That's all 105, 107. That number kind of fluctuates depending on who you ask. And some private and some institutions are having as little as 2% of their alumni giving, while private HBCUs tend to range a little higher. But the interesting fact is the average alumni donation from a PWI graduate to their institution is $1,195, as compared to 475 donation for HBCU grad. And that could be, them making monthly payments or one time, on the day of giving. But you can see that there's a big disparity between PWI graduates and HBCU graduates. And not to say that that they're doing any better as far as giving back to the institution, because when you look at the numbers, their numbers are just as low overall for all the institutions. This is a chart of the top 20 institutions that have high alumni giving rates. As we see, Princeton, of course, this in 2023, they are alumni, 46.6% of their alums gave back. And the interesting fact, only one HBCU made it into the top 20, and that was Hampton. I know Hampton on the East Coast and have the rivalries with Howard and that type of thing. Howard got bumped out of this list, and Hampton in 2023 rose into the top 20. But that still is, considering of all the HBCUs, only one had over 20%, and Hampton is about 20.7. So, how are alumni donations used? There's just not just one type of student that came to school. There's not one type of alumni. So graduates have gone on to be biologists, writers, farmers, all types of careers. And as we know, most of your lawyers, your doctors, paraprofessional type people pretty much probably came out of an HBCU in undergraduate years. And in many cases, alums will direct their donations to specific programs that was meaning to them during their studies. In fact, restricted gifts make up 93% of giving to universities. I'm going to say that again. 93% of our donations go to restricted gifts. They're going to establish scholarships, or they want to give to a band or something very, very specific. If they were in, the STEM programs, they're more connected with those programs than overall just the alumni, what we call alumni association or alumni groups. So think about, we're thinking about 93% of our universities are, give gifts to restricted. Most of us focus on an annual fund campaign. And annual fund campaigns typically are unrestricted donations given back to the institution. But if you look at the research, most people will rather contribute to a specific cause than just, hey, I'm gonna give you a blank check. We need those blank checks, and I say blank check, but I'm giving my annual donation of $100 to my school, and hey, that's it, and do what you want to with it. But if they're establishing endowed scholarships, or pouring into a specific organization, then maybe we need to start looking at how we're addressing them or to give back to the institution. And this is kind of a depiction. So if you look at the numbers, only 7% of unrestricted giving comes from alumni overall. So we're looking at, they're just giving to the school, just making a day of giving donation. But most people are more structured when they want to give back. If you look at it, 93% of donations to universities come from or given to a specific program. So they generally fund scholarships, and as I said, they have a connection. The construction costs, when you want to build new buildings, as everybody wants something new and the most latest and greatest innovations, dormitories have changed since I was back in the late '80s going into undergrad. Now, I mean, students they're looking for suites and the latest Wi-Fi connection or the latest technology to be a part of their college experience. But when you look at the research, and I want to preview this and say this research came based from Lemoyne on college alumni and Jackson State. So we were looking at both institutions, and this is what they said, and this is what people have looked at of all types of surveys. Research projects, funding faculty research it's attractive to alumni to be on the cutting edge of innovation. A lot of the technology programs, the cyber security is very big now, or AI, and so students are looking for those things, and alums are looking for those things. What are our institutions doing? And then finally, operational costs. The day-to-day operation, as it said, they're not the sexy donation that you're giving to help keep the lights on. Experimental research things are more important to alumni and things that their institutions are known for. And because of this, most of our unrestricted donations pretty much will probably go to operational costs. According to the Council for Advancement and Supportive Education, alumni giving accounts for approximately 23% of annual funds raised by U.S. universities. That's all colleges. So if you look at all of our alumni of all institutions in America, 23% of giving comes from alumni. Most of your other funds come from foundations, non-alumni individuals, 17%. Somebody's giving because they know someone that attended an institution, or maybe their leader is renowned, the president is renowned in their area, and people give back based on those relationships. And then you look at corporations and other organizations, that's 13 and 14%. And that varies from school to school. Some people are in more glamorous areas and they want invest in their institution and around their schools, and they're a pivoted point in their city. So if you look at like Atlanta, Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, and now Morris Brown coming back, there's things that are kind of what we call interesting or innovative that are coming around and coming to those institutions. So in fact, the average alumni giving rate in 2018 and 2019 was 8%. So as I said, we're not far off from, most of our HBCUs hover around the 10% of their alums giving back. All the colleges combined is only an 8%. So it's not as bad as people make it out to seem, but it's how they give back and what they give back to. So basically it's saying 92% of alums aren't making regular gifts to their alma maters, which, an untapped resource. And what determines their generosity, why they choose to give or not to give. And we have a plethora of reasons. And this is from the research, their current financial situation. As we looked at the PWI donor and the HBCU, there's still some disparities in in finances as far as salaries. We know that we're still fighting to get equal pay for on the gender side. And other, racial equities that make up, how much money people are making. And, the next factor was, the connection that they had to their alma mater. They were a part of the band, that they played at that institution. Just were their athletes. So many different things kind of contribute to whether an alum wants to give back. And, their moral principles and political values, their interest in creating a family legacy. You have uh, many families that are pouring their students, their loved ones, going back to this institution. We've seen a resurgence of that, based on the climate that we're in now. Our students are coming back and looking more at HBCUs more than they had in the past, and that's just based on the political values that's going on. So a lot of people now are looking, okay, what's really going on, and why are we needing our HBCUs to be stand-up institutions? So I tell people, show me the money. Where is it going? So the top 10 HBCUs, their total, now just catch this number, is 2.6 billion. The top 10 HBCUs, their combined total of endowment funds is only 2.6 billion. The top 10 PWIs, their endowments total 336 billion. And then we're breaking it down. The number of PWIs of over 2 billion, 78. So you got 78 institutions, PWIs, that have their one endowment is more than, it's almost as most as the top 10 HBCUs. We got a lot of work to do. PWIs that have over 1 billion, 148. Still, we're not reaching those marks as they are, because quite frankly, they have philanthropists that are giving back. You look at Harvard is doing, and they're in contention now with the federal government. Harvard is almost pretty much able to say, "Well, take your money. We are, we're okay," because of their endowments. Most of our HBCUs can't say that, that they could go on and operate off of their endowment funds alone. So, the top 10, Howard, Spelman, Hampton, Morehouse, Meharry, North Carolina A&T, FAMU, Morgan State, Virginia State, and Norfolk. And FAMU was on this list for the prior year, but there's some kind of a contention about the funds that they got, that $1 million donation, multi-million dollar donations. So it's an asterisk up there with the top 10. So that was pulled back. But that also goes into how are we vetting our prospects, our donors, to give back to our institution. That's why we'll get into this closer to the end, prospect research. Somebody did not do their job, the due diligence of vetting these persons and their wealth, because what was presented, may not have necessarily have been a good thing for them, because now it kind of just added more scrutiny to alums that want to give back. So we're always fighting that fight. So just a few questions to ponder. I'm not asking anybody for their answer, but if you want to, what are we doing to cultivate these alumni relationships? During the students' undergraduate years. Of course, we say we have the best, things happening on all of our respective campuses, but what are we really digging into? Let's cultivate these students to become donors after they leave. And there are a lot of factors that, play into that. So, and what are our alumni affairs directors and advancement officers doing? We have pre-alumni associations, the different clubs, but building into those relationships to have someone to want to be encouraged to, regardless of their income status, I'm going to do something. I'm going to give back something to my institution because of what my institution gave to me. So we want to look at those strategies as we continue to build. This is a new age of fundraising for us. we're still trying to catch up to the old fundraising ways and getting those big donations in. But now with technology and social media, your spotlights can be shined a lot brighter, but are we reaching the right audience? So the premise of the book, altruism. Altruism is defined as the act of voluntary contributions and services without the intention of receiving anything in return. It is sometimes seen as a form of pro-social behavior and suggested that they are actually different concepts. The reason why people give back and they're not expecting anything in return. So that's the whole premise about altruism. I want to do something for you or someone or some organization, and I'm not expecting anything in return. And one of the conversations that we've always had as a fundraiser, it's hard to convince some people to give someone their money and they're not going to receive something tangible, back in, if you go to a store and you buy a new pair of shoes, you pay for them, you get your shoes. But fundraising is, you really have to be ingrained in that person. They're giving, as they say, people really give to people, and their trustworthiness and their relationships is why I want to give back to a certain organization or a certain thing that I want to see done, and I'm not going to get anything physical in return for it. So 5 things that must happen for someone to get an altruistic mentality to do things for others and not expect anything in return. So you have to have a feeling of they notice what's happening. They interpret the event as an emergency. They experience feelings of responsibility, and they believe that they have skills to help, which leads them to make a conscientious choice to offer their assistance. So what does that really mean to, as somebody that we're talking to an alum and we want them to give back? We have just, various reasons people don't give. And it could be the simplest thing. They didn't get a response, or, when I was a student, Miss So-and-so gave me a failing grade. Many, many things can happen. So this is what we call the cycle. I call it the cycle of life, or alumni relationship management, and really how it should start. As soon as that student, from day one, how did that student get interested in that institution? Was an alumni. Was it because of the research that school is known for or the academics? But once they jump in, how are they being socialized to give back to the institution? We know if they had joined a fraternity or sorority, or they're just a part of the science club or the dance team or the band, what gravitates them to those organizations and what builds them to, because we know some people go to the ends of the earth for their organization, particularly in fraternities and sororities. So how we even cultivate those organizations that are on the campuses to influence them to give back, because their connection is now, I attended Hampton, and while I was there, I became I pledged Delta, I pledged Alpha, and I was a part of the band. And then they see their other alums coming, are they giving back to those particular organizations, and how are they being built to do certain things. So we have alumni relations. And as you see, I want everybody to guess the institution that's in the middle of the picture, if you can see. I got to give them a shout out. I don't know if any of them are actually on the call. Anybody can guess?
I'm going to guess Lemoyne just because.
Nope, not Lemoyne. There's similarities, but that's not Lemoyne.
Okay.
I'm going to say I give these people the greatest comeback story, and they would probably be a great case study. That's Morris Brown.
Okay, that would have been that next guess, is Morris Brown.
Morris Brown. And that is so amazing to see. They came back. I want to say come back from the ashes. They came back from, zilch, to bring it back and to see that campus thrive. And we know that those alums are, they were in there digging their heels in uh, with Dr. Kevin. That would be a real look at, how are people galvanized around an institution that closed down under all kind of scrutiny, you know, mismanagement of money, poor maintenance of the campus, and just went defunct. And now they're back. I mean, Morris Brown, I'm pretty much seeing something about Morris Brown every single day. So their advancement teams, because there's a lot of work. If you ever saw the campuses while it was closed, it was pretty bad. It's pretty rough. But to see that campus now thriving there, every other, when the pledge season just ended, all those Greeks that came back, those organizations, um, getting back to a band, getting back to dance teams, everything that a college student, wants to experience, they have made it happen. And just to see their numbers, people wanting to enroll. But on the flip side, most of our HBCUs, we get a bad reputation of mismanagement of funds, or the leadership is having problems, or the turnover. Turnover at HBCU presidents is just wild. And we know that gives alums kind of a, apprehension on what's really going on over there. Why are we, why is this always happening to our institutions? So we have to start developing plans to get the Oprah Winfrey's, to get the, Samuel Jacksons and Taraji Henson, those people. It would be interesting how they giving back to their institution and what made them do it. Everybody knows Oprah never really graduated from Tennessee State. She attended there, but she got honorary degrees. But has that parlayed into major donations? I mean, she's opened schools. So what is the connection? What's her push buttons to give back, instead of she's giving to Morehouse, she's giving to Spelman, but I hadn't seen, you don't really hear what she actually gave to TSU, but she's established scholarships, particularly for males on that campus. So this is, the framework. So what do we call it? This is an arm. Your alumni relationship management, that comes with your management of your databases, your connections, your social media accounts, and building those things into your development plans, and having someone dedicated to doing those items. So the different things on continuous cultivation, their socialization, the group participation, their relationships that are happening on the campus. And one of the biggest ones for me, or biggest two, communication and marketing. We have some institutions that do a phenomenal job of communicating back to their alumni. But some of those databases, we don't know where they are. And if you look at the research on your institution, most of your donors that are currently supporting HBCUs, they're of an older generation. When and that generation is now dying off. They're getting older. They don't have the disposable income that they used to have. They're on a fixed income. So if you haven't done any financial planning with that group, for them to leave homes to the school, or creating an endowment account when they, pass on, we're missing the mark in that aspect. And that's just one of the things that happens because we haven't, done a good job of communicating and marketing ourselves of reasons to do that. And we know there's many perceptions when people leave their institutions. The students, how they perceive their own alumni at their HBCUs, using faculty as fundraisers, mentoring programs. What is the effectiveness of pre-alumni? I struggle with pre-alumni. I think the term we could probably change and say future alumni, because pre kind of is like I won't say antiquated, but let's look at another term, because students still kind of apprehend, well, I haven't graduated yet, and they kind of struggle with, why would I be a part of that organization? and every student can be a part of the pre-alumni association. So maybe, tweaking the name, and let's come up, change. I know one institution, they changed theirs to Future Alum, they call it FAM, Future Alumni programs, and it taken off. Those students are actively involved. So I know if they're actively involved in that program, they're more likely to give back, or they have the concept to give back. The biggest one from some of the research: relationships with disgruntled and disconnected alumni. Dr. June, I'm gonna use you for a moment. Just recently, you had an alumni that didn't want to give back because of something that one of the instructors. If you don't mind sharing that story.
One of my classmates was still angry from 1976 with the registrar because something happened with the grade. And I asked her, I said, "Do you think Miss Powell is sitting there thinking about you in that grade, or has she gone on?" And so my girlfriend looked and she said, "You know what? That's making a lot of sense. She doesn't even know that I'm still angry with her." So since that discussion, she's gotten involved in the Alumni Association. She's been volunteering on campus doing various programs and assisting the students with graduation and different things. So it's like they're holding a deep rooted anger with the college for no reason. And we've got to get our alums to understand that that happened a long time ago. I have so many stories when I was a student here that I could share, and it was my fault. It had nothing to do with the instructor. I was in the student center playing cards and having big fun. So, you just have to look at whose fault is it, my fault, or did the instructor or the staff person really do something to me?
Right. And believe it or not, when I was doing this research, that came out a whole lot. Something that happened to them on that campus, or with a faculty member or a staff member, and people are still holding that in their heart. And so why are we, what were we doing to, kind of alleviate those problems or bring those people back into the fold? So some of the immediate innovations that kind of came out, using alumni to do exit interviews. Just like on your job, you do it when you're leaving, respectively from your institution, they give you an exit interview. I think pairing alumni that with those students and just having a sit down conversation just to make sure everything, is okay. Uh, Accurate in-kind donation records. This is a big one for those that are big into grant writing. That's another hat where they want to know. It's not always about money, but those services that can be given. Do you have attorneys, alumni that are attorneys that can, help, provide services for your legal matters? How you incorporate those into your institution? Your alumni volunteering, as for graduation services, or at a sporting event, using alumni in those capacities and having those accurate records. The next thing is faculty as fundraisers. Um, that's a big one that we kind of miss out on because faculty uh, typically want to raise funds or writing grants and to fund research of their particular programs. And then we have prospect management. This prospect research is very, very big right now that we don't really tap into. And alumni academic advisory, or our affinity groups, where they're part of the Sonny Boom, where they're JSET. Uh, One thing, at Jackson State, these organizations are big, just as big as the Alumni Association. Former members of, the Sonny Boom. I'm in both. I'm a alumni association, served in that capacity, and I'm also a member of the Sonny Boone of South Alumni Association that I pay into, and we raise money, specifically for the band and capturing those donations. But other groups, creating those. And if you're not doing those are organizations on your respective institutions that we probably need to tap into, because some people are facing, they're not going to join the alumni association, but they want to still be donors and contribute. They might want to, be participating in the football, the booster clubs. One thing that our PWIs do really, really well, their athletic boosters, those organizations are driving force. And now with the NIL deals that are going on, they really have dug in deep. We don't see a lot of that for our HBCUs. Most of the corporations that are sponsoring those, we get those type of donations, but having private individuals raising funds for a specific entity or a specific department and driving home what drives them, what's their push button, what's their talking points. So when we talk about prospect management, 3 things as we're all growing up, we're told not to discuss with anybody. You want to keep friends, don't talk about their money, don't talk about their religious practices, and definitely don't talk about politics. So those 3 things, most people are saying you don't ever in mixed company, don't bring those subjects up because somebody's feelings gonna get hurt. But when you look at donor prospect research management, the 3 no-nos are the key elements in that research. If you have the software that you're using, if you're using Razor's Edge or some form of Blackboard, donor search, you can put anybody into that into your database and find out what their push buttons are. And when I say push button, who else have they given to? And this kind of guides your approach to those alums, and particularly non-alumni donors. If they're continuously giving to institutions or the football team and other schools, and some of our prospect research, you can tell, it gives you a kind of a snapshot of what interests that person. If they're big into, gardening, or they give to, the arts or to the museum, what's going to be your conversation with them? Not just sending them out a letter or a phone call and ask for a donation for the school. It has to be more targeted. Using the prospect management research management tool to look at your older alums. If you have an older alum who really does not, maybe they don't have any children or they have any other relatives that they want to leave their home to or their estates to, who's having those tough conversations with end-of-life planning with those alums? And who is the person to do so? And it's very, very key. Moving from what I call the fish fry fundraising techniques that we've been using, we're having an event, come to the event, that type of thing. This is digging in deep, have that sit down, bringing them together, and frankly, it's kind of hard to ask someone, well, when you go on, you're going to leave your house to the school. How do you frame that conversation? Who's the person to make that ask? And as we talked about alumni exit interviews, doing that, I think that's something these innovations, some things that we can do what I call low cost to find out, what alumni or recent graduates are looking for. Do they need help with finding a job? Who are they connected to? And making those solid connections and stop what I call osmosis, hoping that, they've gotten a job, they're going to give back to school. We have tended to that, kind of want that to happen. I've seen programs, what are you tapping into your international students for? And those students, most of those students do not have finance. They are not, able to get financial aid. Their families are, fundraising for them, or they found some type of donor on, on the state side, and making sure that they understand somebody really helped you, becoming an international student and coming to this institution. So maybe their focus is to be wherever they're from, Africa, Nigeria, or whatever. They're finding a a student that they want to bring along. And maybe that's their way of giving back, is like, we're establishing, the scholarship for international students, and I'm going to get all my international students to contribute to this fund. Those are programs that we could, do that kind of immediately from, having exit interviews. Faculty fundraisers. This is a big one that came out in some of the research, knowing who people made the best connection with, and not faculty fundraisers for them raising, writing grants for their programs, but maybe the faculty, and I use Dr. June a lot because she was my connection to fact. Right now, she is serving in so many capacities at the institution. People know her, know her from her sorority, but as a faculty member, maybe the ask needs to come from whoever that, person was, or people know. At Jackson State, Maria Alvarez Harvey was a tiny little woman from I want to say Dominican Republic. She finally retired about 5 years ago. They renamed the building after her, the honors program, which was originally the W.E.B. Du Bois. They changed to the W.E.B. Du Bois Maria Alvarez Harvey Center. And people would give back.
Off campus, so I'm gonna leave here about a quarter.
So when we're designing our programs, who can we target as a faculty person who can speak to a certain individual or certain groups to make that ask, to make that promotion of the school or the program? And people that have made those connections, they'll give to Maria Harvey. And as I said earlier, people really give to people. So those feelings that, we have about our institution, I can think back to my senior advisor, Dr. Harrison. One of the reasons I pledged Alpha, one of the reasons I got through grad school and made the decision not to go to law school, and he was a law professor. But my connection, if he asked me, he's gone on, but people from that department making the ask of the person. Of course, as we mentioned, alumni advisory groups, affinity groups, establishing alumni groups for specific cause, royal courts, the kings and queens. Do they have their own little group? And how do we make an approach, or how do we make an ask for that? Athletics or honor programs. So there's always somebody's, what they feel, what they're involved in. And as you can see, the picture that we have, all these, stars and that have gone on and that came out of HBCUs, and these are just celebrities. Not talking about the people that have done, great research, building, capacity around these programs. I know Samuel Jackson and his wife just did a big donation to Spelman, and maybe they wanted to give back to the arts. I know they were financing or help financing one the redo of the buildings there. As I mentioned, this about accurate in-kind donations, having real true systems in place to keep up with it. Like I said, if you're using one of your alums as an attorney, his or her time, putting together litigation or court cases, that can be calculated, that can be captured. But we got to have programs in place of to know I'm doing this for pro bono work for my institution, and because they can't afford to, have a defense attorney for certain cases. And we all know that there's going to be some type of litigation that happens. And this is based on volunteer hours. So the average volunteer hour is about $34 or close to $35 in 2024. But being able to capture that and giving those donations, I had an alum that donated, her husband passed away and she donated all these suits, and these were nice name brand suits. There's a value that can be captured for that. So when you're writing these proposals, well, that value can be added to what alumni, contributions, the framing of that conversation and keeping up with it. So that's kind of the end of what I have. Ms. Geneva. I was trying to keep it under that hour.
You got it. Yes.
And if you're interested in more, that's my book, Altruism and HBCUs, and you can get on Amazon.
We love that. Thank you, Dr. Henson. And if there are any questions, I guess we can move on to that. We have a couple of minutes left, so we do have some time and space for questions. Oh, now that you've put the presentation down, I can see everyone. Good to see you all. Love that most of you turned on your cameras. We appreciate you for doing that. And I think that was a great practical conversation or presentation about how can we leverage our alumni and make sure that they feel nurtured, especially during this time of the year, right? So you have a really, really interesting sweet spot to really capture those voices, capture those experiences, capture some of the great nuggets or highlights that the students experienced while they were still on your campus before they transition into, the next chapter of their life journey. So I think that this was a great and poignant presentation about how we can use altruism as a mechanism for making sure that we're engaging with our students and, the lifelong learning process. So great feedback, says the VCF. Am I pronouncing your name right? I don't want to butcher it. Oh, sorry.
Good morning. It's Davika, but thank you.
Okay, apologies. Thank you for you've been making a couple comments in the chat, so I appreciate you for being engaged. Any questions for Dr. Henson or related to the Philanthropy Institute? Dr. Henson, if you wouldn't mind putting the last slide back on the screen so that folks can see the way to contact us and get in touch.
Hi, this is Dr. Gales. I have a statement question.
Yep, go ahead.
And please forgive me for not turning on my camera. As you had acknowledged earlier, I am in the Washington, D.C. area. It is raining, and I have a lot going on this weekend. And so full transparency, my hair is still in rollers to preserve my style. And I didn't think that would be quite professional. But I am professional and like to give my best, look. And so yes, full transparency. That's why I'm not on camera, but I wanted to be present.
No problem.
So my question statement for Dr. Henson. First of all, I love the presentation. I always love your presentations, and so much information, always something new. And I do believe that you had touched briefly on the particular I guess challenges with the current administration, and I was just wondering whether you had done any research or comparisons about any unique challenges that may be facing HBCUs. In terms of giving and the urgency of it, whether we're looking at, economic challenges facing those who would be giving, or institutions and their potential financial challenges, or real and existing financial challenges under this administration, and how we need to rally the troops. So whether you had already done that, or you might be thinking about it, or that's my statement, thought, question.
Well, that conversation. I'll say some pseudo research is being done, like what's happening on those campuses, and how it has affected people being laid off, or well, I won't say laid off, fired technically, because that funding is not coming as it should. And with this administration, a lot of the grants that our institutions rely on, those that have received those donations. I was speaking with someone just yesterday morning, and they literally were in a presentation and got an email to say, stop what you're doing, and they're canceling those programs. So with those programs that have supported our institutions, now our alums, some of them are feeling the effects, but what are they going to be doing to kind of, last year you may have given us $100, but we need 1,000. Having those hard conversations, because they have, the gap is increasing. The financial gap of corporations and government entities giving to, supporting them. But now our personal pockets are being affected, and having those conversations. Yes, so that research is going to go forth. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Thank you for that. And also, not to turn this into a personal one-on-one, but I had another thought. When you had used Dr. June's friend as an example of individuals who hold their personal experiences as reasons for not giving back to institutions. And one of the things that came to mind for me is that these are almost like social issues that are even personal and perhaps might carry over into an individual's personal and professional life, even beyond an institution. And this becomes a general statement that was inspired by the discussion around Dr. June's friend. And the elaboration of it is the wider conversation around mental health. And I know this may be like, oh, wait a minute,
Right.
it's going pretty far. But you think about, and this isn't an assumption, but just research that has been done about how things are perceived and are taken. And I do think that it's real, like you said, that these conversations are had to address people and how they are feeling, in addition to all of these other tactics that are addressed to inspire, giving back. So, yeah, I just wanted to thank you for that comment and share my thought about, how people, hold on to things, and that it is, potentially deeper and worth
Right.
being addressed, not only for the implications as it regards giving, but just also caring about the holistic student. So okay, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gales.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Henson.
I think I saw Miss is it Davika? Am I
Yes,
saying, you had your hand up. I saw that. I don't know if you put it down or not.
I did, but thank you, Dr. Henson, just for the acknowledgement. Thank you. This is my first time hearing you and such a comprehensive, well-rounded presentation. And Dr. Gales kind of highlight, I hope I didn't say her name incorrect, to some of the things that I did wanted to ask early on. But one thing that I have caught in the last 2 to 3 weeks in various spaces is the prospect management and vetting of our donors. And I think that that was definitely a key element that definitely needs a deeper dive. And I just, one of the great takeaways that I got today was really looking at how to leverage prospect management to have these cultivation calls, how to be very strategic and intentional, and how to lead the phone calls, how to lead the interactions to get them to move from that $100 giver to, hey, we need the money,
Right.
to $1,000. So I just wanted just to say just thank you. I took copious notes just to make sure
Thank you.
that as we are being very strategic and intentional here in South Florida and how we're going to expand our advancement. And also just want to say thank you for the numbers, because now I feel seen and heard, because when I'm having these meetings, why the numbers look the way they look in reference to restricted giving to unrestricted giving, you definitely added more value. So I just want to say thank you for your time today. And I definitely was a good pupil today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I echo all of those sentiments. This was, I think, a really comprehensive conversation. And if you haven't seen our previous webinars for the Fundraising Fireside series, as I mentioned, we've been doing this for a little over a semester now. So we started at the beginning of the academic year for 2024, 2025. And this is our last for the semester, but we'll be coming back in full swing in the fall. So stay tuned for that lineup, as well as if you have any interest in a particular speaker, a particular topical area. As Davika mentioned, prospect management, we have a presentation that was conducted by or led by Dr. William Broussard this past January, if I'm not mistaken, or February maybe. that really hyper focus on the moves management process. So that might be a helpful or valuable presentation for you to go back and review. So we will be sending out, if you registered for any of our sessions this semester, we'll be sending out a wrap up list with the playlist of all of our presentations for this year. So you'll get that in your inbox very, very soon. And then, as I mentioned, if you want to continue to, engage with us, you can follow us on LinkedIn using the link that you see there. So, or you could just search for UNCF Teaching and Learning Center on LinkedIn and they'll pop right up. And that's your easiest and quickest way to see what initiatives and projects and programs we have coming down the pike that you would may be interested in participating in. You can also contact Dr. Henson. You see his contact information there. And get in touch with the Philanthropy Institute using our email address, or you can visit our website that also has a contact form there. And for being a part of today's conversation and for being here, you will receive, or you are able to receive, a CFRE credit if you are a member of CFRE. And also, quick plug, if you are a UNCF member institution and you are looking to get your CFRE association credit, you have a discount by being a UNCF member development staff member, or a UNCF member school development staff member. So please get in touch with us at the Philanthropy Institute email address that you see, and we'll work out with CFRE how you can get the discount for either your certification or recertification for that credential. And I know we are over time, but if there are any lingering questions, feel free to raise your hand. We'll probably keep the conversation open for maybe a minute or two. And if not, we appreciate your time today, and we appreciate you sticking around and for being here. We value all of the feedback that we get, so please make sure that you are submitting the evaluation. I also put the evaluation link in the chat for easier access, and that will just help us inform the type of presentations that we offer going forward, as well as how we can enhance and refine the webinar series overall. So really appreciate you today. And if nothing else, thank you, everybody. Oh, yes, Carol, sorry, I saw your hand.
Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Henson, for this very timely presentation. But I would like to offer that I don't currently work for an HBCU. I work for a Black and Brown serving cultural arts organization that has alumni, right? And so I would say that these strategies and this information is also very it lends itself to any organization in that way that might have alum, because I'm thinking about here at the Christina Cultural Arts Center in Wilmington, Delaware. I serve as the Chief Strategy Officer. We've been in existence for 80 years. That means we have 80 years worth of alum who have gone through our dance program, our theater program, and our music program, right? And so how do we cultivate those alum to be donors? And so I just wanted to say, while this focus was for HBCUs, this is very applicable to any Black and Brown serving organization that has alum as a part of its body. And so I am very grateful for this conversation because it had my wheels turning. And so I was writing down notes because I'm just about 120 days into my new position here. And so this was really timely, very timely and useful. So thank you for these good reminders, and then making me think about, Carol, you graduated from Morgan State. Come on, girl. This is applicable
y'all
to
made
that
the top
too.
10 too.
Exactly. And so it's very much applicable to other types of Black and Brown serving organizations that have alumni. And so I just truly want to thank you for this, because it really reminded me of that.
Thank you. You're welcome. So welcome. And I've been in that nonprofit space, so I understand where you're coming from.
I think that's a good point. All right. So thank you, everyone, for your time today. Appreciate you. We're just going to wrap it up for today. Have a good Thursday and the rest of your week, and have a good Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.